Hello and welcome back to Tommy's Top Picks Weekly Roundup Podcast, episode 35. I'm your host, Tommy. This week I'm joined by Murphy.
Hello.
How's it going?
It's going, man.
John's on
Just
vacation, so it's a comic book podcast. Part one.
comic book takeover.
So, uh, this is going to be a two-part podcast. This will be part one, where we talk about does IP matter in the comic book collectible world, and then I thought next week, John, or in a future week, John and I will talk about does IP matter in the card world. Let's see what we think about that in the main topic. But before we dive into that, Murphy, how was your week? What'd you do? What'd you read?
It was good. I've been catching up on everything.
Mhm.
You know, really this week has been a lot of catching up on creator-owned stuff. You know, more independent books.
Nice.
Like I haven't really touched Marvel or DC. Just I've got a lot of books to read and just catching up on the stuff that's
They add up.
smaller. You
Yeah.
know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm still on my Star Wars binge.
Dude, you're never gonna end it. There's so much. There's so much to read.
I know, but I don't know. I think I'm doing pretty well. So I finished all the 2015, like I said, and now I read up to the
War of the
Bounty Hunter, and then I went back and I'm now caught up on Darth Vader and Bounty Hunters, and all halfway caught up on Dr. Aphra before War of the Bounty Hunters.
Yeah, so I never the only Star Wars property I read outside of the main line since 2020 was Darth Vader.
That gets wild.
Just because Darth Vader, dude.
It gets wild, though.
And it shows the politics of the Empire.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's so crazy, like the people that Darth Vader has to compete against, but not really compete against because he's Darth Vader. Like at the end of the day, he's always going to win because he's Darth Vader, you know.
Yeah,
so
right.
But it shows like all the people gunning for his position and his favor with the Emperor, and it definitely makes it very interesting. But like I didn't read the stuff before War of the Bounty Hunters for Dr. Aphra, Bounty Hunters.
Oh, when I said I'm reading everything, Murphy.
You're doing the whole deep dive.
Yeah, it's a blast. It's a lot of fun. And then the other thing I completed was I have completely caught up with getting all of my comics organized into my collection. So that long box I sent you a picture of is officially cleaned up.
It's all organized.
Yep.
Dude, that's the biggest thing for me. Like
it took all afternoon.
Yeah, like I need it to be like it makes it easier for me to catalog and move things into my actual private collection.
Yeah, exactly.
Or personal collection if it's already organized, which also makes it a little difficult for like reading order.
Yep.
Because I'm not going to read A through Z Marvel, DC, independent, like I normally would catalog because I want to jump around. Right. But, so that it makes it a little difficult for reading order, but like having everything already organized makes my OCD like a little bit better.
Exactly. But yeah, so I felt good about that. Anything else you read or wanted to talk about?
No, not right now. I'm just ready to watch Game of Thrones tonight.
Oh yeah. So this
Speaking of which,
I haven't watched it yet.
I'm ready to be hurt again. I watched it, the first episode. I haven't watched the second episode. They can hurt my feelings again. Like that first episode was good. It was good enough.
Right.
And I'm like, you know what? Give me like 3 more good episodes and then be shitty afterwards. It's fine. Like, it's okay. I can take it. I'm at a a solid emotional place right now, I can get hurt. It's fine. That and She-Hulk. Apparently, the second episode of She-Hulk's really good.
Oh, is it?
Very short, but really good. I love the first episode, though.
I haven't dived into that yet. I've been hooked on this show. It's on YouTube, actually. It's called Taskmaster. And
It's not Taskmaster, though.
No, it's not the comic book Taskmaster. It's a British show where they make comedians do these different tasks, and it's hilarious. It's a rabbit hole, though. I can't stop watching it. But yeah, so let's dive into the main topic this week. Does IP matter when it comes to comic books as collectibles? Does the independent property of the comic matter?
So I think that's a little bit of a, not misleading, but like broad statement.
It is, yeah.
I think that when it comes down to it's whether or not the mainstream appeal of the IP matters. And I don't really think it does.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, we live in a world where right now, like, anything that you consume in whatever medium, whether it be books, comics, TV shows, any of that, there's so much that anything has a chance to become worth more to the public. Like, if I'm saying that right,
What do you mean?
So, like we were talking about, like a Star Wars IP.
Yeah.
Automatically, you're going to want to collect a Star Wars #1 because it's Star Wars.
Right.
And it's going to matter.
Sure.
But with so many people consuming so much media, collecting a book that you like that might not ever become anything, that doesn't mean it doesn't mean that it won't become anything.
Right.
Like,
right.
For instance, like Rogues Gallery, which right now is like one of my favorite series.
Mm-hmm.
It's nothing right now in terms of becoming a show or anything like that.
Right.
But it's an enjoyable enough product that it could be a show one day or a movie or something like that. So I don't think that the mainstream appeal matters much when it comes to collecting.
Okay. So I think the difference would be that, like, I'm not saying that does it matter to be worth it to purchase. It's as, like, to purchase as a collectible investment. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, so if you are
really to bet on it.
Right. If you're betting on it as an investment, as a collectible investment. So
I really still don't think so.
No, and that's you can, that is a take you can have.
Like, I really think that still in today's world, like, we consume so much that the individual tastes of readers, like things that people never thought would matter now.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree.
So
like The Walking Dead was a comic book for how long before people never cared? Exactly. Or Invincible. Invincible was over before.
Yeah, Invincible was done. Everybody was on to other things. And then all of a sudden, Amazon Prime was like, yeah, sure, let's do it.
Yeah.
I think that now the difference is that things get picked up sooner.
Yeah.
I think that now, like, with how many streaming platforms we have.
Everyone's competing for new,
everybody
exciting.
Is competing for the new thing.
Yeah.
They want to have it before anyone else has it. And I think that leads to the point where, like, I mean, it separates collectors.
Sure.
Because I'm the type of collector who I buy what I want.
Yeah. So same.
You know, I read what I want, I buy what I want, and that's it. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't. I don't ever plan to sell my collection.
I do, but
You do, yeah. See, we differ in that. Like, I'm a collector at heart, so I'm going to keep my stuff, and then when I die, my children
we'll
or
have to deal with
whoever,
it.
they can deal with it. They can figure out what they
That's
want
so
to do.
cruel.
Like,
That's so much.
hopefully
That's
I
so much
have
work.
instilled. Well, I'm doing the work now. It's all cataloged. It's all alphabetized. It's all organized.
Fair.
But, like, so hopefully, when I die, like, I've instilled enough of a collector spirit in my children that, you know, they can deal with it.
Right.
So for me right now, it's like, to me, IP does not matter. Like, whether or not something I buy is going to be valuable doesn't matter. Now, if I see something that I think is going to be valuable, I buy a couple of them.
Yeah, sure.
Just a couple.
Right.
Nothing crazy.
Right.
But if they ended up not being valuable, it doesn't make
That's
it
fine.
less valuable to me.
Right.
Which is what I think is the point of the collecting. It's like, it sadly, like, there are collectors who are literally out there just to collect the things that make money.
Right, but
But
they
I think
often I find it's very hard to do that in the comic book world if you are not a reader.
Yeah, agreed.
Like, I think it is very difficult there are a lot of things that just appear. And then
Out of
basically,
nowhere, and then all of a sudden, they're what's hot.
Day one, it's a $30 book.
Yeah.
And no store has it anymore. And it's sold out day one. It's a $30 book. Like the Daredevil Elektra book or this most recent Star Wars. Like, it just pops up.
Yeah.
And but I think the other side of it is where I think IP does matter is as time goes on. So you have, and not like to you personally, but as a collectible in the collectible space, it matters because say 5 years from now, Star Wars is rebooting, or Marvel's rebooting Star Wars again, right? And so new readers will jump on that new number one and then want to read what has previously come out, and they will go and they will hunt down those books and try and get those books into their collection. But as time goes on, the smaller IP books, if they don't become anything, no one's going to be looking for them. Like, there aren't going to be eyeballs looking for those books in the market.
But also, though, I think that comic books don't tend to drive up the price of old comic books. Because, like you said, Star Wars reboots in 5 years.
Yeah.
Right? Then all of a sudden, the 2020 Star Wars is all the rage.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't exactly put a value to it because it's all based off of whether or not people want to read. And you can't really see that the way you see it with, like, I sold that new Avengers First Illuminati
right
for $1,000 because the Illuminati were going to be in a movie.
Right.
I think that the outside media sources drive up the price of comic books more than a new comic book would.
Right. Oh, I agree. absolutely. Like if they came out with a Dr. Aphra Disney Plus show,
Yeah, exactly.
like
That would make Dr. Aphra
that's gonna
more
happen.
important.
Yeah.
So that's the thing, is like, I don't know, it starts getting into realms of, at that point, do you buy everything?
Right. Right.
Because anything could, like, at that point, you're just buying Marvel and DC. Because, yes, these, like, the independent books and Image and Boom and all them, yes, they're making comics that are being optioned and bought up by big producers. But then do you buy it all?
Right. Well, I think it's one of those things of just diversification, like you would in any other collectible asset, where you have your low risk and your high risk, and you kind of personally judge how much you're willing to put in each bucket. And
Yeah.
having the low risk being the Star Wars, the Marvel, the DC, and then having your risk be in the Image, in the Boom, in the smaller independent books, where I think you have a higher possibility for spiking,
You have a
but
higher ceiling.
higher
Yeah.
ceiling, but also a lower floor. Like they could become dollar bin books because no one's looking for it and no one cares about the story or the characters or whoever. But
so then, how do we judge that with, like, Image's new take, which, like, we've done 17, 18, 20 top 5 videos.
right.
And almost every single one has had an Image number 1
Mm-hmm.
that is a short run.
Right.
Now, does that mean that Image at this point is now becoming one of the top contenders?
Oh, absolutely.
They're putting out enough content.
Absolutely.
So does that then make them, like, does that put them in the high risk tier in that regard?
I think they do still stay in the high risk. Now, if you are picking up there are exceptions. Image is kind of like a collection of smaller companies if you think about it, because like Skybound is under Image, and you have Best Press Jacket under Image. Like you have all these subsidiary companies under the Image umbrella.
Wait, isn't Best Press
Scott Snyder.
Yeah, that's not Image, is it?
It is.
It's
his own thing. But
isn't that IDC?
What? IDW?
IDW.
They did. Yeah. IDW got the that firefighter book.
And I thought they also got
We May Be Demons.
We Have Demons.
Yeah.
I thought that all of the
he gets to the publishers fight over, like Scott Snyder has his own company, and then he can publish it to whichever publisher he wants. He can sell the publishing rights to the highest bidder.
So at this point, I think that the actual content matters less than who creates it.
Who creates it is very important.
I think that, like talking Scott Snyder.
Right.
Literally anything Scott Snyder puts out after he did Batman.
Right. I mean, you think about it, just being able to say from the creators of, like,
yeah,
like with anything Robert Kirkman does now, it can be from the creators of The Walking Dead.
I mean, yeah, Robert Kirkman's gold.
And like, now it can be the creator of...
The fact that that Outcast show was not that good.
Right. It's a sin. It's a sin.
It just blows my mind.
I am waiting for the day Firepower becomes a show, because that's going to be
now that it's over, there's a good chance it does.
Yeah. And
so I mean, that's the thing, is I think IP mattered, in my personal opinion. I think that IP mattered more before we had the ability to consume so much of it.
I agree. I agree.
When people, you know, bought a book and stashed it for 10 years, and then all of a sudden, whoa, that movie's coming out.
Spider-Verse.
Yeah, stuff like that. It's like when we didn't have the ability to
Like when that
consume
movie
it
came
so
out,
easily.
I had my copy just in like a regular bag and board, and just
Yeah. But
nothing special.
now that we have the ability to consume it so quickly and easily, they're putting out so much that it's almost muddling the value, in my opinion.
Right, like it's all about staying in the zeitgeist, and
Like,
I think there's value in never leaving the zeitgeist, because like yeah, I love Something's Killing the Children. I love um, Radiant Black, like all these small properties, but I read the one or two comics a month, and then that's all I have until the next month. Like when it comes to Star Wars, I can dive deep. I can binge old books. I can watch movies. I can play games. There's
yeah,
endless amount of things I can do if I want to stay engaged in that property. So I think to a degree it does matter, because people will be searching for things related to that guaranteed. Um, and as we move on, things will add to that list. Like why I think Image is kind of a mixed bag, where if it is a Robert Kirkman book, if it is a Scott Snyder book, or like some big creators, like their things will be more of a guarantee. Like Chip Zdarsky is becoming one, I think. Like I'm just
yeah,
waiting for the announcement of the HBO show Sex Criminals. Like
yes.
it as soon as that.
HBO. Side note: Sex Criminals should be an HBO
Absolutely, it would
thing.
be
Like that
incredible.
would be right up the alley of HBO.
Yeah.
Like sex and violence. Like just
Who do you cast? Who do you cast for John and Susie?
ooh, I don't know. That's a tough one.
That might have to be its own
Susie
episode.
would probably end up being Margot Robbie just because.
I don't
It's
know.
HBO. They got money.
Yeah, they do.
They got money. You can go for the big names. I don't know. That's a tough casting.
That would be fun though. But yeah, I mean,
the
there's
thing
so
for
many
me is
good.
just that it's about speed now.
Oh, absolutely.
Our entire like society, when it comes to collections or technology or anything, it's about how quick you get to it.
Right.
Like, to
By the
beat
time
a
you've
dead
heard about it,
horse,
it's
like
too late.
the Illuminati book I sold for
Right.
$1,000, the day that Doctor Strange came out, 2 days later, it was worth 300.
Really.
Yeah, it's now so quick that, like, I'm happy that I'm a collector who does not care about the value.
Oh yeah. No,
The
I'm
value
not.
to
Yeah.
me is more important than the actual IP's value as a collectible, because it a Monday, what everything you have could be worth gold,
Right.
and then Tuesday it's bronze. Like
Right.
it just,
Yeah.
and that's where I think that we as a community are starting to, we're not getting another Amazing Fantasy number 15.
No.
We're getting so much all the time and so quickly, it's irrelevant.
I agree. But I think
that's why I think that's why my stance is that IP doesn't truly matter, because everything has a shot at the big time, and once it gets there, it could matter for a week.
right. And that's yeah, and I do agree with all of that. But where I differ is that when I think it matters in that times have changed, And I think Disney's honestly the one that has made these social changes of people just wanting to get lost in a world and just never have to look
Yeah.
outside that world. Like they can live in a Star Wars world, they can live in a Marvel world. Like there's so many
You can't
different.
afford to live in a Star Wars world, though.
What?
Did you see the prices at Disney's like Star Wars hotel?
No, I'm not talking about like
We can't afford to live in
That's
that
not.
world, Tommy.
No, to like
I know what you mean,
mentally
but
live in that IP mind frame.
yeah.
And
No,
I
I
think
agree with
they've
that.
really changed it with like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like the amount of people that just go see the next Marvel movie because it's the next Marvel movie. Like if there wasn't that red Marvel logo on some of these movies, would people still go see them? Like
Yeah.
if they were not connected to the MCU at all and not marketed that way, and they used like some C or D tier character and then just tried to slide it out and not say it was Marvel, I don't think people would go see it.
So, I mean, then that,
Or is it
like,
just, or like, do you just,
from what I'm getting from your side of it, is though, then does collecting independent stuff matter?
it
Because
does,
yes,
because there will be
DC
ones that break
Invincible,
through.
Walking Dead, uh, now Something is Killing the Children.
Right.
Like these smaller properties are becoming large enough.
Right.
They're
But that's,
breaking into the Avengers and Batman. You know, they're breaking into that level, but we also haven't seen them. They haven't happened yet.
right, exactly. So they may just fall through.
They might not happen. So then, does that mean that DC and Marvel are the ones that you have to collect?
If that's your end goal. And so, well, that's also
For
kind of the
money,
thing is, yeah,
monetarily,
right. Because
then
you
those are
have,
the only ones worth doing it for.
right. But like you said, given enough time, if some of these things do happen, taking a risk on 10 Boom and Image books might pay off better than 10 just random DC books that are now dollar bin books. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean that's what happens though when you oversaturate. Like,
Because the amount of copies printed will inherently be lower for these smaller books.
yeah,
And it's also, it'll be surprising, just slightly off topic, but just during the whole pandemic and there being lower print runs on every book, it'll be super interesting to look back in like 10 years when printing's all the way back up, in a couple of years when printing's back up to normal speed and the amount of issues are being printed again. If this era of comics, just anything will inherently have a scarce value just from day one. Like I'm noticing stores do not have, like, if you go online to like Midtown Comics or like online retailers, there's like huge gaps in these like recent books that like you used to be able to go and be able to get the last like 6 months worth of books easily. But now they're
yeah.
just the numbers aren't being printed. But
I don't know. I think that this topic in general, it goes deeper than just whether or not IP matters, because yes, IP does matter, but like I said, like my opinion
it
is
matters, but
that
it's not everything.
it's not everything. It's you reading a book and gambling on whether or not you enjoyed it enough. And that's where I'm happy I'm a collector who I don't care.
Right.
Like I don't care what it's worth. I don't care what any of it's worth. It's worth something to me when I read it. And I think that we live in a world now where you can flip a best dad ever mug for that cost you 50 cents for fucking $6, you know?
Right. Right.
Like I think we live in a world where people are willing to pay so much for nothing that it almost makes things that are worth everything, you know. I don't know. I'm a cynic. Like,
Well,
you
so
know,
I guess it doesn't really matter to me what the value of each individual comic book is, because when I do eventually sell it, it's going to be because I opened a comic book store and I'm using it to fund my store,
yeah.
and create a
Which that's
space
the
for
only
people
way
to
I
buy
would.
and read
That's
comics.
the only way I would sell all my stuff.
Right. And
Is
so
to fill the
I'm
dollar
wanting
bin.
my collection as a whole to hold a value that allows me to do that eventually, opposed
Yeah.
to like, oh, I'm so concerned about this one book or these 10 books. It's about the collection as a whole. So that's why
But that's the thing. Is that I think
that's why I
that
think it's good to diversify. Like I have my Marvel, I have my DC, I have my, and that's the majority of it. And then I have my Image and my Boom and my
yeah,
Vault and my all my IDW and small stuff, Dark Horse.
yeah. I think that we as a comic book community can hold the value ourselves. That's
Oh,
one thing I
absolutely.
do. That's the one
Absolutely.
thing I like
The amount
about
of money in the
comic
comic book
books is
collectible
that
world is crazy.
I think that that's the thing I like about comic books is like, you even find the comic book fans who are like, I don't watch a single Marvel movie
Right.
because screw that. Like I don't need to,
Yeah.
like I like the actual comics.
Yeah.
I think that we as a community can hold the value of the IP better
Oh, I agree.
than the mainstream value.
I agree. It's just the mainstream value brings more eyeballs. And then it
Yeah.
becomes a supply and demand, where if it's a small niche, great property, it doesn't matter if it's how great it is. If it's niche, then there's only a certain amount of eyeballs looking and interested for it.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a hard.
There's
It's
no
a
right
hard
answer.
topic.
It's just the discussion
Yeah. There's
point.
no.
Yeah.
I'm a cynic. That's my problem. Is like I'm a pessimist and a cynic. And as much as I love that all this stuff is coming out, like I love Spider-Man.
Right.
My parents, instead of teaching me life lessons, like drank and fought and gave me Spider-Man comics. So, like I see all these Spider-Man movies coming out and I love them. I'm so happy.
Right.
But it's like then I see somebody who like beat me up because I was a nerd in high school, or not high school, but middle school.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, the Spider-Man movie," and I'm like, "Screw you."
Yeah.
Like I think we just live in a world that consumes so much
Yeah. That's
that
fair.
I think it makes collecting for value a lot more difficult.
Absolutely. Yeah, it does. But cool. Well, is there anything else you want to talk about on the topic before we talk about this week's videos?
No. That's it. I would love to hear other people's opinions.
Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah,
Does IP matter in the comic book world? Leave your comments and your opinions down below. And
does the mainstream appeal of IP matter?
yes, yes, it does.
Yes, it does.
So for this week, John is away, so we have a bunch of Genesis stuff that he has put together. I know we have a bunch of new Genesis viewers. Welcome. This podcast episode was not for you. It was for our comic book
It was
people.
for me.
But it was it was for Murphy. But yeah, so we have that origin stuff going up. I am going to be doing the market update this week for John, so wish me luck. And tomorrow we'll be recording our comic book top 5, and
Comes out Tuesday morning, just in time for the new release Wednesday.
And stay tuned and take a look on our socials. I may be guesting on another podcast this week, a Flesh and Blood podcast. That would be Wednesday, so that could be fun. I will follow Twitter for that because I'm sure it will be shared there if I do. But yeah, I think that does it for this week. Let me just think if there's anything else. I think that's it.
Yeah, I think that's about all.
Cool. All right, well, until next week, we will catch you guys later. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, check out our Patreon, support the channel, share us around, share us with your friends if you liked it. If you didn't, let us know why, and we'll change it. So, until then, we'll talk to you guys later.
See ya.